She wears a red hood. She carries a basket. She walks through the woods. We all know the story. But what if Little Red Riding Hood wasn't about a girl at all? What if the tale we've told for centuries is actually a dark allegory about cannibalism, sexual predation, and psychological control? Because hidden beneath the childhood rhyme is something far more disturbing. Once you hear the original versions, the real versions, you'll understand why this story wasn't meant for kids. This is the dark truth behind Little Red Riding Hood, and the wolf is only the beginning. The tale we know today, the one where a clever girl outsmarts a wolf, is a sanitized version, stripped of its original horror. The earliest versions of Little Red Riding Hood come from rural European oral traditions passed down through generations, long before Charles Perrault or the Brothers Grimm ever touched them. And they weren't meant to comfort, they were meant to warn. In the 14th century French telling, there is no hunter, no rescue. A girl walks into the forest, meets the wolf, strips naked, climbs into bed, and is eaten. That is it. No escape, no moral, just a girl devoured whole. But that is not the darkest part. In one Italian variant from the 1500s called The False Grandmother, the wolf does not just eat the grandmother, he serves her flesh and blood to the girl as dinner. Think about that. Red Riding Hood sits down, unknowingly eats her own grandmother, and then climbs into bed with the creature who fed her. This is not a fairy tale, it is a horror story. The cannibalistic elements are not accidental, they were metaphors and warnings. In times of famine and fear, cannibalism became the ultimate taboo, and placing that act at the centre of a children's tale, it etched that horror into their minds for life. But the cannibalism was only the surface, because the wolf wasn't just a wolf. In older versions, he is called a werewolf, a man-wolf, a shapeshifter, a predator in disguise. He speaks like a human, he tricks the girl, he lures her off the path, and in many versions before he devours her, he asks her to remove her clothes, one piece at a time. He says, "Put your cloak in the fire, child, you will not need it anymore." What does that sound like? It is not a bedtime story. It is a tale of grooming, of luring a young girl into vulnerability. The wolf does not pounce, he seduces, he manipulates, he gains her trust, and then destroys her. The red hood isn't just a costume piece, it's a symbol. Red, the colour of blood, passion, menstruation, and sexual awakening. Little Red Riding Hood, walking alone in the woods, represents a girl crossing the threshold from childhood into womanhood. And the wolf? He represents the danger that comes with that transition, the threat of predatory men, of losing innocence, of being consumed, body and identity, by someone older, stronger, and more experienced. In Charles Perrault's version, written in 1697, he does not even try to hide it. He ends the story with a moral. Young girls, especially attractive, well-bred young ladies, should never talk to strangers. If they do, they may well provide dinner for a wolf. And he does not mean a literal animal, he means men. Wolves, in French slang at the time, were metaphors for lascivious predators, men who preyed on young women. So the story is no longer about survival, it is about obedience, about staying quiet, staying home, staying safe. But here is where it gets even more twisted. The wolf is not always malevolent. In some versions he is protective, loving, even romantic. In modern retellings, films, books, even cartoons, the wolf becomes misunderstood. Red sometimes falls for him, sometimes saves him, sometimes becomes him. The victim becomes the predator, the prey becomes the danger. It is a narrative inversion that blurs the line between innocence and monstrosity. And what does that say? That girls should learn to love their predators, that danger is exciting, that being consumed is somehow romantic. Let us not forget that in many versions, Red dies. There is no happy ending, no hero, no rescue, just a girl who did not listen, who went off the path, who talked to a stranger and was punished. That is not a fairy tale, that is a threat. But there is another interpretation, one rarely spoken. What if the wolf is not the villain at all? What if the story is about freedom, about transformation? In some feminist retellings, the wolf is not a predator, but a guide. He represents chaos, the wild, the unknown. Red's journey into the woods becomes a rite of passage, a symbolic death of childhood. The act of being devoured is the shedding of innocence. She enters the forest as a girl. She emerges as a woman, transformed, awakened. In this telling, the wolf is not evil. He is necessary. The monster is the world that fears him.